Madam Speaker, and I rise to speak in regard to this MPI, that the NTG ensures its investment in healthcare meets current and projected future needs of all Territorians. I thank you to the member for Daly for raising some of these issues, and I'll get to some of those points that he raised as I work through my speech, but it is important to remember Labor's performance over the last 8 years trying to manage the health system. And I've only got to go back to my electorate, Madam Speaker, in Christmas 2021. Labor was out there as my electorate was approaching Christmas in 2021, Madam Speaker. Labor was out there closing health clinics in my electorate. It was absolutely devastating for people living out bush. They closed the Canteen Creek Health Clinic, closed the Epinara Clinic, closed a number of clinics that year in Central Australia, and it was absolutely devastating for people living in the bush. And this is just an example of the way that Labor over 8 years were treating people living in the bush. It was absolutely devastating. I had call after call after call. Labor, no interest at all. Showed no interest at all in health out bush, just closed the clinics, walked away and left it at that. So that's just one example, and I'm sure I'll get to many more as I speak tonight about this. So, Madam Speaker, the CLP remains dedicated to breaking the healthcare challenges cycle and attracting and keeping staff here, ensuring timely, reliable care for all Territorians through reforms and targeted investments. Firstly, it's imperative to understand that the recent history of neglect and failure from Labor with regards to delivering and ensuring its investment in healthcare to meet current and projected future needs for all Territorians. Madam Speaker, I've just given one example, but under Labor's reign over the past 8 years, we have seen a complete failure to invest in ageing infrastructure in health. Labor has overspent the health budget every financial year since 2016-17, including an almost $280 million budget blowout in 23-24. I've previously spoken about the Acacia computer system blowout of $61 million from $259 million to $320 million. Who would forget, and I'm sure the member for Nelson will remember this, the decision to spend $5,000 to hire a Christmas tree. That's the sort of attitude from the Labor government when it comes to delivering health services here in the Northern Territory. NT Health violated government procurement policies when it awarded a controversial $700,000 consultancy contract to Ernst & Young without going through a public tender process. The Auditor General findings, which included how the contract ballooned to more than $4.3 million after multiple variations were reported in the NT Independent on the 14th of December 2021. Madam Speaker, $27 million was spent on overtime hours in health across the Territory for the financial year to March 30, 2023. And this is an important one. Back in July 2018, Madam Speaker, the former Labor government promised to build a $5 million Bradag facility in Tennant Creek, and Bradag is delivers alcohol treatment, education and rehabilitation services in Tennant Creek. So $5 million was promised for Tennant Creek back in July 2018. In fact, it was the 4th of July 2018, and in fact, I've got the media release here in front of me. This is what they said. There was a Minister for Health back then, one of their chief ministers, Natasha Files. I think they had 3 chief ministers, Madam Speaker. But in any case, back in the 4th of July 2018, they promised, announced that a purpose-built resident rehabilitation transitional outreach accommodation facility will be constructed for the Barkly Regional Alcohol and Drug Abuse Advisory Group, which is Bradag. But I think one of the other parts that's often forgotten, Madam Speaker, is that what they did say is that by building that facility, it would free up 19 Territory housing properties that would become available to people living in Tennant Creek. Now, of course, not one shovel has hit the ground. And when it comes to health, we know that better housing will lead to better health outcomes. So 19 houses were never delivered back to the people in Tennant Creek because of Labor's failure to invest in alcohol treatment and rehabilitation facilities in Tennant Creek. But it wasn't just that. In Tennant Creek, they also promised in 2020 to build 12 one-bedroom units for health staff so that we could attract and retain health staff in Tennant Creek. Again, Madam Speaker, not one shovel has hit the ground. So I think everybody in this House should be starting to get a bit of a picture now on the way that the former Labor government delivered health services or failed to deliver health services right across the Northern Territory. When Labor lost government, they left 80 patients waiting for residential aged care. The knock-on effect has meant that bed block in our hospitals, which is a significant cost compared with residential care. The then Health Minister, Madam Speaker, the current opposition leader, Selina Yubo, and her colleague, the previous Health Minister, Natasha Files, I don't know how many times waffled on in Parliament but provided no solutions to fix the broken health system. The Territory's healthcare system has been in crisis due to numerous failures of the former tired Labor government, such as surgery wait times blowing out to the worst in the nation. Well, how many times can I talk about this failed 𝙈𝙗𝙩𝙩𝙚 IT rollout, and most significantly, the failure to act on the assaults on our frontline workers working in our hospital system and also working in the health system out bush. Absolutely disgraceful. The fact that the government previously spent millions of dollars on security in our hospitals and clinics just shows how bad the situation has been right across the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, Labor spent $13.3 million on security and health across the NT, which has increased from $10 million. Of this, $7.1 million was budgeted for the Darwin region, but actually cost $8.1 million. So, another security cost blowout, but even worse in Central Australia, blowing out from a budgeted $1.6 million to $3.95 million. Of the Central Australia funding, $1.4 million of this was spent in 2 remote communities, being Papunya and Yuendamu. Madam Speaker, Labor's lack of action to address alcohol-fuelled violence and antisocial behaviour not only created unsafe environments for staff and our patients at our hospitals, but made it extremely difficult to attract skilled professionals to the Northern Territory. In 2024, a total of 494 assault incidents were reported by frontline staff at NT public hospitals and health facilities around the Northern Territory. When the Territory is not safe, Madam Speaker, when it's not safe to live and work, this leads to critical shortages in personnel, including our health staff. That's the situation we face when they're not safe at work, when we have high crime rates right across the Northern Territory. This is what harms our ability to attract health staff to the Northern Territory. Let me remind the House of the significant issues surrounding the Health Department's troubled 𝙈𝙗𝙩𝙯 patient health record system. If the Leader of the Opposition recalls, she was both the Minister for Health, the Minister for Corporate and Digital Development when the decision to pause the rollout of 𝙈𝙗𝙯 into the Royal Darwin Emergency Department was taken due to risks to patient safety. In her cabinet role, she was directly responsible for the 𝙈𝙗𝙯 system, both from a health and IT perspective. It emerged that the budget for the 𝙈𝙗𝙯 project blew out by $61 million from $259 million to $320 million. To this day, the 𝙈𝙗𝙯 system is still not being used at the Royal Darwin or Palmerston Hospital emergency departments while the system is enhanced. Despite lies being on the line, Labor did very little to sort out the issue in the 8 months prior to being turfed out of government. In fact, all Labor did was leave us with a $280 million overspend in the health budget. This is yet another health mess the CLP government is cleaning up from the previous Labor government. I'd like to cast your mind back to December 2020. At the time, we heard some hollow lines from, again, one of their chief ministers, this time Michael Gunner, I think, talking about departments tightening their belts and living within their means. The next business day, we learned that Labor had spent $5,000 renting a Christmas tree after being asked asking everyone to tighten their belts, the next day $5,000 is spent on a Christmas tree. I wasn't surprised, just disappointed. In January 2024, we pointed out that since 2016, the median wait time for Territorians choosing to undergo a medical procedure in the Northern Territory had increased by 54%, resulting in an average wait time of 316 days. Median wait times for non-urgent elective surgeries at Royal Darwin Hospital were up 113%, or 403 days. Palmerston Regional Hospital was up 32%, or 386 days. Gove Hospital was up 42%, or 327 days. Katherine Hospital, there's no procedures there. Alice Springs Hospital was up 51%, or a wait time of 148 days. After a damaging 8 years in government, Labor allowed a distressing progression of worsening circumstances. The level of non-urgent elective surgeries conducted in the Territory plummeted by a staggering 37%. In stark contrast, the number of individuals undergoing non-urgent elective surgeries in Australia's public hospitals has increased by 81.6% during the same period. To counter the loss of nearly 600 full-time positions from Territory Health, the CLP has taken back control of our streets, is rebuilding the Territory's reputation and getting our economy moving forward. Rampant community safety issues deter healthcare professionals from working in the Territory, exacerbated by frequent assaults on hospital staff. I mentioned earlier that when Labor lost government, they left 80 patients waiting for residential aged care. This has meant bed block in our hospitals, which is a significant cost compared with residential care. Put simply, a shortage of residential aged care facility beds is contributing to aged care-related discharge delays, placing increased pressure on NT hospitals. The fact is, under Labor, the NT has the highest aged care occupancy rate, being 92.2%, and longest hospital stays for older patients awaiting aged care placement. In addition, the NT has fewer residential aged care beds per capita, 47.5 beds per 1,000 people over 70, compared to the national average of 67.5 beds. Since coming into government, the Country Liberal Party has lobbied with the federal government to secure $120 million through the Commonwealth Aged Care Capital Assistance Program for a new 120-bed residential aged care facility in the Greater Darwin region. As recently as last Friday, the Minister for Aged Care, Federal Minister for Aged Care, I should say, announced that the department would open expressions of interest process to build and run an aged care facility in Palmerston. So the work that we have been doing with the federal government, lobbying them for $120 million, it feels like it's starting to pay off, but let's wait until we see the federal budget. NT Health has been working closely with senior Commonwealth officials to attract interest from registered aged care providers to build more residential aged care facilities here in the Northern Territory. The NT Government has allocated land adjacent to the Palmerston Regional Hospital for a residential aged care facility which an aged care provider could build on. The site is ideally located for co-delivery of care for residents of a future facility. So what else have we delivered since coming into power? For a start, the CLP Government is delivering better access to the Royal Darwin Hospital with planned upgrades to improve safety and to relieve traffic congestion. The upgrades, which will be delivered in 3 stages, include a redesign to the current Rocklands Drive and Florey Avenue intersection, temporary access of Damabilla Drive and Burnett Road for emergency access only, and a second permanent entry to Royal Darwin Hospital will also ensure access to the hospital is always maintained for emergency services. These upgrades were well overdue and have been brought forward as a priority. Appropriate access to RDH is a key driver to improving community livability, and these much-needed upgrades will deliver better health outcomes for Territorians while strengthening the resilience of our emergency and hospital services. The former Labor government continued to put Territorians at real risk by dragging their feet and not delivering these works. Astonishingly, they prioritised an MBL high-performance centre and other Labor pet projects over Territorians' health. The NT Health Capital Works program includes NT government-funded projects for health centres, health centres and morgues in both 𝙈𝙗𝙩𝙗𝙗 and 𝙈𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗. The real question is whether they have actually been funded under the budget set by the former Labor government. 𝙈𝙗𝙩𝙗 Healthcare and Morgue and 𝙈𝙗𝙗 Health Centre and Morgue design is well progressed, with finalisation subject to current development application processes. The 𝙤𝙑𝙗𝙗 Health Clinic was completed in August, with Aboriginal Community Controlled Health Organisation Red Lily Health Board commencing operations in the new 𝙤𝙑𝙗 Health Centre on the 2nd of September 2024. Madam Speaker, Territorians deserve better, and these works are proof that we're getting on with the job and prioritising infrastructure projects that will actually improve the lives of Territorians. The Australian and Northern Territory government's joint-funded 48-chair ambulatory care renal dialysis building in Alice Springs is waiting the outcome of a development consent application. A new four-chair nurse-assisted renal facility in 𝙑𝙗𝙗 construction tender was recently declined as responses were cost prohibitive. The project is now being considered as part of the broader planning for remote renal facilities to ensure value for Territory construction outcomes. Madam Speaker, Purple House has benefited from the Commonwealth investment in infrastructure to bring dialysis units into remote centres. The Better Renal Services measure will provide $73.2 million to fund up to 30 chair dialysis units, including workforce accommodation where required, to provide dialysis on country to First Nations Australians with end-stage kidney disease. Having renal facilities located within remote communities ensures Territorians with kidney disease can access appropriate treatment on country, reducing the reliance on services in town and dependencies on patient travel, visitor accommodation and relatives in public housing. Labor made the announcement about how they were investing in our future and delivering greater health services across the Territory in their budget 2023, but progress in health-related infrastructure has been slow. You've only got to go back to a federal Labor announcement on the 26th of April 2022, where they promised 500 new First Nations medical trainees. Federal Labor promised 30 new renal clinics on the 22nd of April 2022. They said they would double the funding for rheumatic heart disease. Where is this money that they promised? Here we are going into another federal election, and all we're hearing is all these vague promises again by Labor. I wouldn't trust Labor with $50 to go shopping for my grandmother, Madam Speaker. I wouldn't trust them with $50 to buy anything for my grandmother, and here they are on the eve of another federal election making unfounded promises again. They haven't even delivered from the last election, and here they are out making further promises. Madam Speaker, work is underway at Royal Darwin for the new 24-bed mental health facility and also the 32-bed ward at Royal Darwin Hospital. The CLP government is undertaking a comprehensive review of patient travel and logistics, both road ambulance and aeromedical services, which will set a new strategic operating model for these services. The review is focused on streamlined and improved command centre arrangements, achieving operational efficiencies and expanded use of digitally enabled remote care where applicable. Several key service contracts are scheduled for renewal by early 2026, and this review will inform contract renewal processes. In addition, work is in progress to expand the Northern Territory Health Hub for remote charter travel for NT government agencies to achieve greater efficiency in the use of scheduled remote charter flights. Madam Speaker, the CLP has made and delivered on our commitments to enhance the NT Pharmacy Scope of Practice program, similar to the current model operating in Queensland. James Cook University is currently admitting NT students into the required training program with 13 enrolments to date. Earliest completion date for this student cohort is December. NT Health delivered the urinary tract infection program on the 28th of October 2024. Pharmacies in the Northern Territory are now delivering this service, and around 1 to 2 pharmacist-led treatments occur every day. 13 pharmacists have enrolled in a relevant course to undertake the necessary training to deliver full scope of practice activities and are eligible for a subsidy of $8,500. Madam Speaker, can I get an extension?
No.
No? And just in closing, Madam Speaker, the CLP is delivering on our health agenda.
Thank you.